For 2 years, I have parked in this exact spot, engine ticking as it cools, and rehearsed the same sentence for my sister. I know what you're doing to our mother. Tonight, there's a folder on the passenger seat beside me. 11 months of withdrawal slips, dates circled, amounts underlined twice, a case I built alone at my kitchen table long after everyone else was asleep. I am finally ready to say it out loud to her face tonight, before I lose my nerve the way I've lost it a dozen times already. Before I tell you what happened when I finally did walk through those doors, I want you to know that I was right about almost everything written in that folder. The dates, the amounts, the pattern of it, all of it real. I was wrong about the one thing that mattered most, whose name actually belonged at the top of the page. Willow Creek Senior Living sits behind a stand of old maple trees on the quiet end of Belmont Road, the kind of place with a fountain that runs all summer in the courtyard and a piano in the lobby that nobody has played since the day it arrived. My mother, Joan, has lived here for 2 years now, since the afternoon a doctor sat the three of us down in a small beige office and used the words mild cognitive decline as gently as words like that can ever be used. I have visited her here nearly every week since that afternoon, rain or shine, a standing appointment I have never once missed. For most of those 2 years, my sister Sarah was not welcome to come with me, and for most of those 2 years, I told myself that was entirely her own doing. My mother's room always smells like the lavender lotion I bring her every month, the same brand she used when I was small enough to sit on her bathroom counter and watch her get ready. Today is a good day, which mostly means she recognizes me twice instead of once. She asks after my daughter, warmly, delighted, and then asks again 20 minutes later as though for the very first time, and I answer her exactly the same way both times, with exactly the same warmth, because I learned a long time ago that correcting her helps no one. Confusion, I have come to understand, is not the cruelest thing that can happen to a woman in a room like this one. I did not understand yet, not that afternoon, how close the real danger had already come to her door. At my own kitchen table, long after midnight, with the rest of the house dark and quiet, I kept a ledger of my own, every withdrawal from my mother's account, every date, cross-referenced by hand against the days my sister had visited her. $4,000 in March, $6,200 in June. Small amounts in between that never quite added up to an explanation. I told myself I was building a case, carefully, methodically, the way a careful person builds one, page after page in a spiral notebook I kept hidden in a drawer. What I did not let myself notice for the better part of a year was that I had never once asked my mother a single direct question about any of it, because some small, protected part of me was afraid of an answer that wasn't the one I had already decided on. Sarah moved back into town the same month our mother's diagnosis became official, after 8 years of distance between us that had nothing to do with money at all, and everything to do with a hard funeral for our father and the things two grieving daughters can say to each other, unforgivably, over an open casket. She arrived back at Willow Creek like she had never left in the first place, signing herself in at the front desk by first name, hugging nursing staff she'd somehow already charmed within a week, disappearing behind our mother's closed door for an hour at a time while I sat in the hallway with my coat still on. I watched all of it from that same hallway, week after week, and decided, quietly, and with something close to relief, that comfort like that had to be hiding something underneath it. I finally said it to her directly, on her own front step, in the last of the daylight, both of us standing at exactly the same distance from the porch light, neither of us willing to back down first. I know you're taking money from Mom, I told her, and I wanted to stop now, tonight. Sarah went very still, the particular, total stillness of someone who has been rehearsing an answer far longer than I had ever been rehearsing the question. You don't know anything, she said quietly, not defensive, almost sad, and I can't tell you why yet. I heard that sentence as a confession and nothing else, turned around, and drove home satisfied I finally had her. It would be months before I understood it was the truest and kindest sentence my sister said to me the entire time. The one time I worked up the nerve to ask my mother directly about the money, she didn't answer me with words at all. She went quiet in a way I had never once seen her go quiet in all my years of being her daughter, her hands tightening around an old photograph on her nightstand until her knuckles whitened, her eyes finding the door again and again, as though she genuinely expected someone to come through at any second. I told myself, afterward, driving home with the radio off, that the fear on her face was simply about the missing money, or about her own slipping memory of where it had gone. I have had months since that afternoon to sit with exactly how badly I misread her expression, and exactly how long I allowed myself to keep misreading it. Around that same time, a man named Dale Renwick began appearing at Willow Creek's family events, introduced by the facility's own director as a financial wellness consultant, an unhurried, softly spoken presence in a well-tailored suit, the kind of man who remembers your name and your mother's favorite tea by the second meeting, who always seems to have exactly one more minute for you than anyone else in the building. Families loved him. The facility loved him. The residents themselves seemed to genuinely light up when he came around. I remember shaking his hand once at a holiday mixer, warm cider in my other hand, and thinking how reassuring it was that someone in this building was keeping an eye on the money for people like my mother. It would be 2 years before I had any reason at all to think of that handshake differently. It came to a head, finally, in our mother's own doorway, both of us standing far too close, both of us far too loud for a hallway where old women were trying to sleep behind thin walls. I said the word thief. I said it plainly, clearly, in front of our mother, loud enough for the nurse's station to hear, and I watched something close permanently behind Sarah's eyes as I said it. Not guilt, I understand now, months later, but the very specific exhaustion of being accused, out loud, in public, of the one thing she had spent 18 quiet months secretly trying to stop. Our mother began crying softly in her chair, confused far more by the volume than by anything either of us had actually said, and Sarah walked out down that hallway without defending herself even once. I took her silence as a confession. It was the worst mistake I made in 2 years that were absolutely full of them. What I never saw, because Sarah never once let me see it, was the small apartment desk where she had quietly kept watch for a year and a half. Bank statements, an authorized signer form Dale had gotten our mother to initial on one of her more confused afternoons, screenshots, and a digital recorder she started carrying after the day Dale Renwick first told her, pleasantly, over coffee he'd insisted on paying for, that a woman with what he called boundary issues could very easily find her. Visitation privileges reviewed by a facility board he happened to sit on informally. He said it again more plainly in a phone call 3 months later, and that time the recorder was already running. She had spent 18 months quietly documenting a stranger circling our mother's accounts, one withdrawal and one veiled threat at a time, and she had told no one at all. It was Sarah, in the end, who put the folder in front of me, not me who found it. 2 weeks after the doorway, she showed up at my house unannounced, sat down at my kitchen table without taking her coat off, and said she was done watching me hate her for the wrong reason. She opened it herself and let me read 18 months of her own handwriting in under an hour, in a kitchen that had gone almost entirely silent between us for 2 straight years, while she watched me realize, page by page, that the one man I had shaken hands with and trusted immediately was the same man capable of shutting her out of our mother's life entirely, and that my own sister had let herself be called a thief rather than risk it. I didn't have an answer that didn't shame me, so I didn't try to give her one. We didn't repair 2 years of damage in a single evening. Nobody repairs that in one evening. But for the first time since our father's funeral, the two of us were finally looking at the same enemy instead of at each other. Dale Renwick's next move was announced, almost casually, on a corkboard by the Willow Creek front desk, a family peace of mind seminar, open to any relative worried about a parent's finances, light refreshments provided, seating limited. He had spent 2 patient years building a quiet, spotless reputation as the only person in that entire building actually protecting the residents' money from the world outside it. Sarah and I stood in front of that flyer together, in complete silence, reading it twice, and understood, in the very same instant, exactly what and exactly who he intended to use as his glowing centerpiece success story. The community room filled with the same folding chairs Willow Creek pulled out every Thursday for bingo night, 30 or 40 relatives settling in with paper cups of bad coffee, and the particular anxious hope of people afraid they are already too late to protect someone they love. I recognized several of them from the hallways over the past 2 years. The same fear I had carried myself, sitting one row over from theirs, not knowing yet what either of us actually knew. Sarah squeezed my hand once, briefly, before we took our seats near the back, and I understood immediately that it wasn't for luck at all. It was so that I would remember, whatever happened in the next hour, that we were finally doing this together. Dale stood at the front of the room in his sharpest charcoal suit and told everyone, warmly, patiently, that most families wait far too long to ask the hard questions about a parent's money, and that he had personally, quietly helped dozens of Willow Creek residents protect what they had spent an entire lifetime building. He didn't mention a single name. He didn't need to. Everyone in that room had already heard, secondhand, in hallway whispers, about the widow upstairs whose finances he had so capably and generously taken charge of, and I watched 30 strangers nod along in genuine gratitude, already reaching for their phones to find their own parents' account numbers, already trusting him exactly, precisely the way I once had. Sarah and I stood up together from the back row while he was still mid-sentence, still mid-smile, and I remember, oddly, only the backs of our own reflections in the dark community room window glass as we walked together toward the front. No plan beyond the folder in my hands and the 1.5 years of proof folded quietly into hers. No lawyer waiting in a car outside. No letter sent ahead. No one we had called to warn or to witness. Just 2 sisters, finally on the same side, walking toward a man who had spent 2 careful years assuming the 2 of us would never, not once, compare notes. Every head in that room turned as we reached the front. 30 strangers going quiet in the particular, electric way a room goes quiet right before it senses something unforgettable is about to happen in front of it. Dale's smile didn't move yet, didn't even flicker. I could see it plainly in his face. He still believed, right up until the very last second, that we were simply 2 more grateful daughters coming up to thank him warmly in front of an audience, the exact tidy ending he had rehearsed for 2 solid years, with every single family that came before ours. I held up 11 months of my own withdrawal records, the very same ones I had once aimed entirely at my own sister, and read the dates out loud to a silent room. Sarah held up 18 months of his, the authorized signer form he'd had our confused mother initial on one of her worst afternoons, and the recorded phone call, played from her own phone through the room's borrowed microphone, where he calmly threatened to have her barred from her own mother's room. Dale tried, for perhaps 10 seconds, to call it a private misunderstanding blown out of proportion, but his own recorded voice was still finishing its sentence behind him on the speaker, and no one in that room was listening to him over it anymore. We hadn't rehearsed a single word of who would speak when. We didn't need to. 2 years of being turned against each other came out of us both, finally, together, aimed at the one person who had actually earned every bit of it, in front of every last family in that room he had been quietly counting on to trust him next. I watched 2 entire years leave Dale Renwick's face in under a single minute. The warm smile went first, then the easy, unhurried posture, then the color itself, as 30 people who had walked in ready to hand him their own parents' account numbers instead quietly, one by one, started picking up their phones. He never once raised his voice in his own defense. He didn't have anything left to raise it in defense of. He gathered his folder of glossy slides with hands that had visibly stopped being steady and walked out of a room he had spent 2 patient years building to never once turn against him, until the one afternoon it finally, completely did. Willow Creek has a new financial services policy now and a new sign-in procedure for anyone claiming to advise a resident's family, and my mother has her accounts back, fully hers, every last dollar traceable and accounted for. Sarah and I aren't repaired the way 2 years of real silence deserves to be repaired by one seminar and one long overdue apology on a porch, but we sit with our mother together most Sundays now, the 2 of us on either side of her chair instead of 2 years apart from each other and from her. I spent 2 years absolutely, completely certain about which one of us was the real danger inside that building. I was right, in the end, that someone had been stealing from my mother the entire time. I simply spent 2 of those years aiming, as hard as I possibly could, at the only person who had actually quietly been trying to stop it.